Hi, and welcome back to the spring break. Start over. Hi, and welcome back to the Spring Break 2015 edition of the Green Page podcast. I'm Mayor Ed Koch.
I'm Mariah Carey.
And I'm the other Mariah Carey.
You did that last time. Thanks for joining us. We're here to discuss articles from the Green Page, which you can find at cmuptm.blogspot.com. And our first article for this business segment of the Spring Break 2015 version of, you're supposed to go, "Wah," every time.
Woo! And we are all business this week.
All business down here in the Philip Chowsky Theater.
In the front, anyway.
Our first article, Miss Carey, would you like to introduce?
Which one?
So it's from the this one.
Miss Carey.
The real Miss Carey.
So me, Miss Carey.
You're Madam Carey.
I want to talk about my Miss
So
Carey.
this first article is from the Clyde Fitch Report. It's called "Does Commercial Broadway Need a Tax Break?" And it's by Clyde Fitch, in case you didn't get that. So I guess on February 5th, there was a press release issued by the Broadway League, which is the National Trade Organization for Broadway. And they were promoting some proposed legislation by Senator Chuck Schumer, which would basically provide theater shows with the same, or Broadway shows with the same tax subsidies that are provided to film
Film and
shoots.
television, yeah.
Film and television, yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy. I'm sort of surprised that this hasn't come up already.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what they think that the dividing line should be between theater and film and television. But I'm also, I didn't know the extent to which the investment in film you could take as a tax break, because as long as 75% of your production costs are spent in the United States, investors can take 100% of their investment as a tax break. And this is not you can do the same thing, of course, if you donate to United Way or any 501c3.
Right.
But being able to take a 100% tax break for an investment that you're putting towards something that you may get money back from.
On X-Men the movie.
Yeah, exactly.
Is that true?
Yes.
Yeah, that's what this article says.
I had no idea, actually, that
No, that
was
seems
the case.
insane.
I doubt you can, it doesn't specifically state this in the article, but I doubt you can take that same tax break on profit that you earn, but the original
Yeah.
investment is a tax-deductible investment.
Yeah.
Which,
when you think about it, I mean, I read that at first I'm surprised and I'm like, well, that doesn't make sense, but then at the same time you're like, well, it totally makes sense. It's people investing in art of some stripe, whether it's your thing or not.
Fast and Furious 7.
Like my personal favorite,
Right.
Fast and Furious 7.
Which is coming out in
Faster
March.
and
yes.
Furiouser.
I
good.
think I can't remember what it's called, but
That's
I saw the
what
trailer
it is.
for it. It is coming out.
They
And
do
I'm
jump out of a plane.
really glad
in
that
cars.
people could take, a tax break for
Tax-free.
investing in that movie.
Yeah, but I think you're right. It's not profit, probably. But you do think you're like, oh, how is this different from theater?
Right.
Seems like you should get the same breaks. And probably it's just the way that these have divided. I mean, we've talked about this before, that the unions are different, even though people are members of both, actors are members of both SAG and AEA.
Equity.
Equity. So, I mean, maybe it's just that they've just kind of divided naturally
Yeah,
over
I'm
time
not
and
sure
have fought
about
for
that.
different things. I don't know. But yeah, you look at this and you're like, yeah, why don't you get tax breaks for
Right.
Broadway shows? It seems kind of silly.
Well, Clyde Fitch took a little bit of umbrage to this. In fact, their byline for this is not a person, but it is CFR staff in outrage. That is the byline. For this.
Noted that too. It's very good.
So they don't like the idea for some reason. Mostly, so the Clyde Fitch report is mostly focuses on off-Broadway and off-Broadway, not-profit and for-profit theater ventures.
Right.
And probably sees Broadway as sort of a different, not within their sort of wheelhouse. So they looked up how many people. So okay, Chuck Schumer claims that there's not enough people investing in Broadway. That it's that there's only a very small percentage of people who can afford to. Blah blah blah. Which I think is absolutely true. Clyde Fitch looked it up over the 10 most popular Broadway shows that aren't a long-running one, not Phantom of the Opera, not Cats, whatever. Is
Right.
Cats still running?
Yeah.
Please God, tell me Cats is still running. Anyway, and then
You're
they
going
found
to New York soon, and you've only got this chance to do it.
they found 233 names or corporations that of those 10 shows helped produce them.
Right.
However, they did note this in the article that a lot of those names are overlapping. And if you look at the Broadway League's website, you can look up any show you want and see all of the producers and associate producers that are connected with a show. And you see the same names over and over and over again.
Right.
So to say that there's 233 people that are producing the top 10 Broadway shows right now is pretty specious, actually. I was kind of surprised that this organization, Clyde Fitch Report, would say that.
And also, like, he mentions that there's no real way of knowing how much money is being invested in these productions. Like, that information isn't available publicly.
Yeah.
Well, they're private ventures, so they're allowed to do whatever they want to do. But I mean, there are good numbers to say that like a Broadway musical costs like 10 to 15 million to produce, and it is known for sure that the majority of those shows, the majority of those investments, do not return. Like they do
Right.
not make money
We
back.
talked about that last week.
Yeah, 4
Yeah.
out of 5, you lose your investment.
So
It's high stakes.
So of course, like, and it's funny, like, in a lot of ways, I look at Chuck Schumer and I think, why would you be wanting to get people to invest in this super risky venture?
Yeah.
Like, you know, yeah, sure, we all love Broadway theater. Like, everybody loves it. Fine. It is actually the #1 tourist attraction in New York City.
Right.
Like, Broadway theater is making $1 billion a year and is the #1 destination for tourism.
It's people like Andrew seeing cats.
So there's got to be a bigger reason why Chuck Schumer thinks it's important for more people to invest, like not just the super rich glitterati that now invest in Broadway.
Well, and I wonder also, like, what's the difference between being an investor in a production and being a producer? Because maybe it's like there's a cap, like a financial cap. Because
Well-
I know that I've friends who've invested in shows. I mean, their name is definitely not above the line, like this
Right.
article's talking about. They wouldn't win a Tony. They've put in
Right.
$1,000 or something into a show they believe in.
Well, but
I
that
wonder about that
$1,000,
too.
so a producer, you're right, is responsible for a certain amount of fundraising. They
Yeah.
can raise that money however they want. They can
Okay.
raise it from, 1,000
Individuals.
of their friends that they are never going to get a Tony. Their
Right.
friends aren't, but if you raise enough money, then you are. So
That makes
like,
sense.
they
Okay.
can raise the money. It doesn't necessarily have to be their cash.
From their pocket.
Anyway, so I don't know. I don't think it's a good. I would never invest in Broadway. I think it's a terrible, terrible investment. Like, don't do it. If you have
I
money
mean,
out there to
odds are
spend,
you'll lose your
I
money.
mean, talk to your
invest
broker
in a nice
first.
mutual fund. Like, there's plenty of ways to make money, and Broadway just isn't one of them.
But if you were doing it not for, if you're trying to just support, the arts or a show, I would say then why not? You know what I mean? I'm not going to make money back, but maybe consider it a donation.
I really
Like,
don't think that anybody that's investing in Broadway is doing it for that reason.
But maybe that's what he's advocating for, because I know
It's
that like my
possible,
parents
although-
donate to stuff all the time that they just believe. They donate to the Oregon Shakespeare Festival because they believe in the work they do.
One of the arguments that the article does try to make is that maybe part of the reason that they're trying to do this is to sort of normalize this investment,
Maybe.
make it more reasonable that things like mutual funds and banks might find it, because they can take the tax break, might find it more attractive to invest in.
That could be.
But I also agree that I think that's a terrible idea. I don't want my mutual fund buying, buying into Fast and Furious the musical. Like, I don't need to see
I mean,
that.
I want to see that.
Well, I mean, everybody wants to see Vin Diesel sing again, like he did at my bachelor party.
I loved it.
It was good.
You know, he was in town.
Vin was?
Yeah.
He
Top
didn't
off.
call me.
Vinny.
Son of a... I'm going to have to
He's a
text him
busy
later.
guy. Don't take it personally.
All right, we should move on. This
I
has
mean-
run on long enough.
This is very good.
Let's
though.
move on. So our next article is,
One of two on Cirque.
yes. So this first one is from cirquefascination.com.
I'm
And it's
fascinated.
called Cirque May Walk Tightrope on Ownership?
Question mark?
Ooh, can I say his name?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Guy. Oh shoot, where are my notes?
Oh my
right
God.
here.
The owner of Cirque, the 90% owner of Cirque. His name is Guy Laliberté. What a name!
Very good.
Guy Laliberté. I
Doesn't
love
get
that
much
name.
Frencher than that.
He was destined for greatness.
Totally. Well,
I have to say.
I have a hard time believing that's not an assumed name. So yeah, he owns 90% of Cirque. One guy. I didn't know that before today.
And he's ready to sell control.
Yeah, so some reports say that he's willing to sell 20 to 30% control. Others say a majority control, which would mean taking, somebody else completely taking over Cirque.
Yeah, some say up to his entire share, 90%.
Right,
They would
and
just completely take
I
over.
guess Cirque is valued at $2 billion.
Yeah,
So
let's
that's
go.
a payday for Mr. La Liberté.
I think I might do it.
Yeah, I think I would too.
I might.
I mean, you built up a business from nothing to worth $2 billion. It's time to take the cash.
It's time to go on spring break.
But I guess this is,
Yes.
Yes.
and maybe not, but Cirque has been sort of on a downswing like the rest of everybody in the past few years. They've laid off about 450 people in the past few years.
Well, and this article also talks about like their recent tragic accident where somebody died, which like was tragic in itself and also terrible press. So that can't have been
Yeah.
good for them.
So maybe looking to sort of find new markets, be more international, maybe move out of move into more. I would think they'd want to be in China now with all the casino type things happening there now.
And they're talking about moving out of Quebec, which is, I mean, they do talk about the fact that they're barely there anyway.
Right.
So that it feels like symbolically like a big deal and practically maybe not such a big deal.
Well, Canadians love nothing more than being Canadian, so I can imagine that they're still holding on to that as sort of a. Well, I mean, that's a big question about the whole thing, right? Can you sell 50% ownership of Cirque and maintain the brand that you've established that is like really a recognizable brand, certainly across the country, and I imagine across the world. Like, you have to, you can't stop being Cirque just because now you're owned by, what are the companies that are talking about buying them?
Carlyle Group.
The Carlyle Group.
They're one of the world's largest investment firms.
Yep.
There's also
Caesars Acquisition Company, who owns Caesars and a bunch of casinos in Baltimore, like casinos all over the world.
There's TBG Capital, which is a private equity firm.
Yeah, so you can't,
They invested in Uber.
yeah, these are not, point being, these are not necessarily, entertainment production
Right.
groups.
Right.
These are people who want to make
Who just
money.
have a shit ton of money.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you don't know. I mean, it probably would be a matter of trying to find the right investor, somebody who is passionate about Cirque, wants to maintain this brand, and then hoping that they are true to their word. I mean, I don't know what else you could do if you decide to sell. That's part of what selling something is.
Right.
If you sell me something that's precious to you, I might throw it in the river. You know what I mean? It's like I might tell you that I'm
You
gonna
would, too.
keep your cat safe, and I'm just gonna.
Drown her.
To the wood chipper she goes.
Yeah, I mean,
I love cats.
It's interesting to think about like
Your
how,
dog.
Suzu!
No!
it's interesting to think about how a sale like this could affect the whole organization from the top down, and how like different leadership at the top that isn't that hasn't been part of the organization for a long time and is just coming in with all this money to take it over, like how that affects the entire chain.
Right.
You know.
Well, what this doesn't say, and I wanted to look it up, but I don't know if Guy is a prominent member on the board or not. Just because he owns 90% doesn't mean that he necessarily has sort of creative control of the company anymore. It's likely that he does, but it's not necessarily true. I don't know what the board is
Yeah.
like for that company.
Yeah, it feels like the implication is there that he has some
Control, yeah.
influence, at least,
Yeah.
strong influence, because they make it sound like he is intrinsically connected with the
Well,
brand as a whole.
We should see very, very soon if Cirque does make this move, and all the best of luck to you guys. I
Okay.
love your funny pants.
Everyone does.
And we should just roll right into the next article.
The next Cirque
It's
article.
also from CirqueFascination.com.
Which-
Imagine me doing a cartwheel right now.
Which I think we should point out is probably a marketing sort of
Probably.
wing of Cirque.
But we'll talk about it anyway.
Yeah,
on the green
Richassi
page.
is the author. They all have single names in Cirque.
Yeah, so it's called Ka, a technical marvel, celebrates 10 years.
Yep, 10-year anniversary of Ka, a big production of theirs in Vegas.
Did you see it?
I have never seen it.
Did you see it?
No, I have a friend who works on it,
Yeah.
but I don't know.
Almost the
anything
same
about it.
thing, I think.
I-
Yeah, she's seen it.
Yeah, I think one of our, some of our folks here at CMU have worked on that show.
Oh,
Yeah, it's been running 10 years. It's $200 million to produce it, to begin with.
Annually or that was like the
That
startup.
was the initial production cost.
Wow.
200 million,
That's a lot
but
of dollars.
with a 2,000 seat audience that they sell out pretty regularly. And I imagine those seats are $100 a pop or something like that, just to guess.
Probably for like bad
They
seats.
probably are making that back. I'm not sure. Yeah, another couple interesting numbers. 130,000 pounds of cork they've gone through. Yeah.
Cork for
Did they-
what?
yeah.
So they have this beach scene. There's like this. There's this big rotating deck that the actors. So it starts off in one direction, and it like tilts up, and the actors sort of climb it as it turns, and then like they end up on the other side, and it's this beach scene. And the sand is all cork, obviously imported from Portugal or something like that. I don't know.
Or
But
cork,
they've had to
maybe.
go through
That's where cork is from.
130,000 pounds of it in the 10-year run.
It's a lot of cork.
Yeah.
Also, like cork,
It's
I
like a
just have to
very
say,
light material.
it's light, but I was also gonna say like cork is in short supply these days, and maybe cause to blame.
I
It's gotten
would
very
blame cause.
expensive, and they're not. It's hard to
Cork is
get.
really expensive?
Yeah, it's going up in price. I learned this when I was making a cork board,
Right.
but it really is. That's
Yeah, it's
actually
also
true.
one of the reasons why wine companies are moving away from
Exactly.
it.
It's why that you see so many
Oh.
plastic wine stoppers now. Yeah.
Bad
Or
for the
different
environment.
So really, the article is just about the anniversary. It's
It's
really
just about cork.
kind of plugging the show.
I mean, the moral of the story.
the moral of the story is, according to Richasi here, that you should go see Ka because it's really awesome.
Yeah.
Despite the fact that it killed somebody last year.
And a lot of cork trees.
Yeah.
Killed a lot of things. and
So that's our Cirque catch up for the segment. We'll be back
people.
with
With some
our
Cirque mustard after this break.
Cirque mustard.
You said Cirque ketchup.
You make me sick.
That's good.
can't
We'll be
wait.
back with the design segment of Spring Break Podcast 2015 right after this break. Thank you. Finally. Okay.
Bye.
Bye.
Oh.